if they wanted, who would just go beat you up as a gang, or who would then enforce on you. And, of course, he culled those guys after he fully came to power. And the establishment actually liked that because they were disgusted by the TSA-type folks. But that's what this is all about. And they just create a culture. Look at all the cop shows, all the movies where the cops are always good, the FBI is always good. There might be government corruption, but it's a rogue group. No, the people on top are the crooks. Then you do have good people in police and FBI at the lower levels generally. But they're compartmentalized, need to know. And look at Fast and Furious. Look at what that shows us. Shipping guns into Mexico. The media's like, why? It wasn't just selling them at gun shops. It was shipping them to Mexico. It was giving them to drug gangs in Florida. It was giving them to groups in Illinois and Texas and running stings with fake IDs that were real IDs, but fake issued by the government to shut down people legally selling guns. They just want to shut down good people. They want to dominate. Going back to Fritz Springmeier, you were bringing this up because of all the subjects you could have raised today. I think this is a good one you picked, but why raise this point?
Well, I'm building upon, there's a whole bunch of things that you said that I can build upon.
Go.
One of the earlier things that you mentioned was about magazines and so forth. And that's what happened in Nazi Germany, too, is that they used so-called public magazines and newspapers to start this social control. If you were a German woman and you had sex with a Jewish man, why, then the local newspaper that was run by the Nazi Party would come out and they would call you a Schandmädchen, which means a sinning woman, a woman of shame, and they would print your name in the paper. Well, how many of us have gone through the grocery store, and as you're going through the checkout stand, look up there at the gossip rags. You see the same things happening here, is that people are being surrounded.
Now they have magazines everywhere and weeklies called Busted and stuff where they put all the citizens arrested, not convicted in there so they can be publicly pilloried. Exactly. They're getting us used to this gladiatorial event where it's entertaining to see our fellow citizens pilloried. Yes, exactly. All going along the same program that brought the Nazi success. If we look at a couple statistics of the Gestapo, it's very revealing. If we look at Dusseldorf, which was a city in Germany, the statistics for the Gestapo from 1933 to 1944, only 15% of the legal or their police proceedings that they would start were started on the basis of police actually seeing something happen. All the rest was based upon reports from snitches and other agencies, public agencies that would snitch for them. That's why even when they report, I saw a new article about this today, neighbor sees a gun, they just go ahead and send the police to somebody's house, and the guy's in there cleaning the gun in his garage, and they'll shoot him, or they'll tell him come out and then call a SWAT team, and then they're like, but my gun's not illegal. It's like, it doesn't matter. Somebody called, the doctor called, you weren't vaccinating your children. Well, there's no law against that. Well, the state police are still here. We're going to have to take your child into custody. They may be in danger, but there's no law. They have to have a shot. We're taking your child. Well, where's the warrant? We're taking your child. Again, they're just getting us used to not following a law, and tattletaling is taken like a golden sacrament from heaven because they want to encourage this. The only power you have as a citizen is to snitch, and that is a godlike power now that must be worshipped.
Yeah, so well said. I was watching television. I don't watch a lot of television, but I saw this lady that was there was a news story on her. She was being heralded as a heroine in the television news. And what had she done? Well, there had been a group of men in a car that had driven up to a gas station. They were dressed like any Americans, but their complexion looked Arab. And she called the police because these Arab-looking complected men had driven up to the gas station, and she was being heralded as a heroine.
I mean, talk about something that's so blatantly against what this country was founded upon, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. They were totally opposite of where they're taking people, where you're a hero for calling in someone because they look like they're Arabs. Wow. Another interesting thing that I noticed from history, because I was studying Warsaw. Warsaw was a city in Poland where the Nazis established what was called a ghetto. They moved Jews from all over Poland and other places into Warsaw, and then later they moved those Jews to concentration camps. And I would ask people, the listeners out there, how many Gestapo do you think it took to move something like, and I don't remember the exact statistics, but ballpark figures, maybe 500,000 Jewish people out of the Warsaw Ghetto in a whole series of moves? How many? Well, it was only a dozen. Something like a dozen Gestapo police were all that were needed. And the reason why is because all they did was oversee what the local Jewish police did, the local Jewish police that the Jewish people would. That's
right. That's what George Soros was in Romania, and he did an interview 14 years ago, 15 years ago for 60 Minutes. And by the way, they've removed it everywhere. You can find the transcripts and short clips. And he said it's one of the best times of his life, as a quote. And then that's hailed. And then when Glenn Beck dare criticize him as being a collaborator with the Nazis, the ADL said that was anti-Semitic. So see, if you actually helped Nazis round people up, you are loving and of goodness. But if you're not a Nazi, then the Jewish groups say you are. I mean, again, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible just how evil this system is. And but it was also the compliance. I've watched the footage of communists, Seventh-day Adventists, so many groups, Jews. I mean, they just killed Russians, and all of them. Well, the Russians started fighting back because they figured out, hey, this guy, first they thought it was a liberator. They hated Stalin so much. Then they found out, wow, this is even worse. But you've all seen the footage of the men would put their hat in their hand and say thank you to the soldiers and run in and be shot. The women would walk in with their babies and be shot. And then I'm a weirdo because that's not happening with me. See, that's not happening. And you see people not resisting. There actually was some resistance in the Warsaw Ghetto. But there wasn't much resistance against Pol Pot in Cambodia. The good news is, Fritz, 5 million guns a month being sold, an all-time record, and people say it's because they don't trust the government. So I don't think it's going to go that way in America, Fritz.
Yeah, there have been some positive things happen, like back in May 2000 in Canada, the people discovered that there was this huge data bank that Canada's Human Resources was keeping on people, their Human Resources Department. They had given it this long name, Longitudinal Labor Force Files. That's so typical of our government to come up with these large names. Anyway, the Canadian people, within that month, got that stopped and shut down. So there have been instances of where the people said, no, we're not going to take this. And you can look through history and see those events happening. And of course, we're not taught the class risk-taking 101 when we go to school. So how do we take risk? How do we step out and not just be reactive, but how do we be proactive like you are being on your show, Well, first, we have to get beyond our fears, because fears become self-fulfilling prophecies. Defensive thinking is rooted in the past. We have to move forward, be proactive, and we need to have faith. We need to have hope. These are the kind of things that I really want to encourage people to have, is faith and hope, so that they'll move forward. And we're forced to take risk in life. You know that. All of us are forced to take risks. So what do? Do we run back to our fears and try to have security? Helen Keller said that security is mostly just a superstition. You know, it doesn't exist in nature, she said. She said life is a daring adventure. And I dare to say, you know, that's what you and I have been embarked on, is a daring adventure. You know, and we have our rough moments. I know that you've had your rough moments. I've had my rough moments. But I would rather do that than to crawl on my knees and lick the hand and kiss the feet of the people that want to rule us with this tyranny.
Fritz, just continuing here, do you think we can turn the tide against this? What's your gut? Because I do see people waking up, but I don't see them really then taking action, though. And by that I mean we need to boldly call this system out and totally discredit it, because just like they want to shout us down, it is a battle of wills. They're so immoral and so openly criminal that if we just expose them and say no and resist with non-compliance, they're not going to get away with it. They need our compliance.
Exactly. They do need the general public's compliance if they're going to operate effectively. And that's why they continue to have the charade that we elect our presidents. We don't select, nor do we elect our presidents. The process has been totally hijacked. But as long as we continue to be fooled into thinking that we select these criminals to run this country, people will continue, like the church. Oh, well, we have to obey the legal authorities. Well, excuse me, but these authorities are no longer legal. They're illegal, you know. To put me into prison, they probably broke 20 or 30 laws easily, you know, laws that carried far more time in prison than what they put me in prison for. But nobody's going to call people to task for what was being done, you know, jury tampering, blah, 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 you know. But the thing of it is people need to stand up and be good people. Good people will stand up and you know, maybe you're asking me, are we going to be successful? I don't know if we are or aren't, but I do know that we have a choice to make as to what kind of person we're going to be. Are we going to be the punk? That's a prison term. Are we going to be punked by these power hungry people, or are we going to have the dignity of being decent human people that say, hey, this is not right and it isn't right, and like you say, calling them out. Understand the dynamic of power here, and I know you know, Alex, is that power generally demolishes the user's character, and so it corrupts. Total power totally corrupts, and we see these people, some of them may have had some decency to them before they got power, but afterwards, even these petty bureaucrats, you know,
that's my next point. That's my next point. Knowing the Illuminati and what they're into at the deepest levels running this, I know they're